Friends, this week everyone was waiting for the Fed's decision, and now it's behind us. But the main question is, what does it mean for the market next? In this video, I'll share my thoughts on how the rate cut affects crypto and what I personally expect in the coming weeks. We'll also go through the hottest news on Solana, BNB, and a few other altcoins that everyone is talking about right now. So make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and let's get started. Friends, before we move on to the market overview and then to promising coins, please note that this video is not financial advice. It only reflects my personal impression and market view. Always do your own research and invest wisely. One of the most anticipated events of this fall has arrived, the Fed meeting. And yes, what everyone predicted has happened. The rate was cut by 0.25%. The official range is now 4.00 to 4.25%. At first glance, it's a small change, but in fact, it signals the start of a new cycle. The last time the Fed cut rates was back in December 2024. Since then, we've been living in higher for longer conditions. And now we finally see the first signal of a reversal. Why did they make this move? The Fed openly admitted the labor market is starting to falter. In August, only 22,000 new jobs were added, the weakest result in years. Unemployment rose to 4.3%, the highest in several years. And if you dig deeper, data revisions showed that almost 1 million fewer jobs were created over the past 12 months than previously thought. A serious warning sign. The economy isn't as strong as it seemed. Yes, inflation is still above the target, around 2.9% by CPI. Core inflation is also slow to drop, holding above 3%. But now, the balance has shifted. On one side, price control. On the other, the risk of cooling the economy. The Fed decided to play risk management. Better to start lowering rates gradually than to wait until labor market problems explode. What did the new forecast show? In the dot plot, most Fed members penciled in 2 more cuts by year-end. This means the easing trend has started, and even if inflation doesn't quickly fall to 2%, the rate will still go lower. There was even one vote for a sharper 0.5% cut, but the majority chose the smoother scenario. And here's the key: market reaction. European stocks immediately moved higher, with the tech sector leading the way. In the US, the reaction was more cautious. S&P 500 and Nasdaq dipped slightly on the announcement but rebounded the next day. Investors clearly understand. Cheap money is coming back, and that's always fuel for risk assets. What about crypto? No fireworks here. Bitcoin tried to hold above $115,000 but couldn't break through. Ethereum, Solana, and other alts also showed some impulse but cooled off quickly. Why? Because the market expected exactly negative 0.25%. It was already priced in. No surprise effect, so we didn't see strong buyer pressure. What's next? Several scenarios. Base case: another 1 to 2 cuts of 25 basis points by year-end, gradually bringing cheaper money. Stocks continue rising. Crypto gets steady support. Bullish case: if the economy weakens faster than expected, the Fed could cut more aggressively. A 0.5% step would be a powerful catalyst. Stocks, gold, and crypto could all surge. Risk case: inflation sticks above 3% while the labor market doesn't collapse. Then the Fed might pause again, leading to nervousness, pullbacks, and volatility. And this is the most important part for us. In crypto, liquidity shifts are felt instantly. If rates keep falling, alts will have a chance for a new growth wave. But if inflation holds the Fed back, both Bitcoin and alts could stay stuck for a while. By the way, in my Telegram, I break these things down in more detail. If you want a deeper understanding of where we're heading, make sure to subscribe. Link is under the video. Huge news for these altcoins. Now, as promised, let's dive into the hot news on top altcoins. Let's start with BNB, the main headline maker in recent days. BNB has crossed the $1,000 mark for the first time in history. At its peak, the price reached about $1,008, followed by a small correction. But the fact remains, the psychological barrier is broken and the market noticed. Why did this happen? A few key factors. First, rumors that Changpeng Zhao might return as Binance CEO after he removed ex-CEO Binance from his Twitter bio. Second, institutions. More and more big players are considering BNB as part of their corporate strategies. Third, the RWA trend, tokenization of real-world assets. The BNB chain is seeing more products linked to bonds, funds, and even gold. And another factor, Binance's partnership with Franklin Templeton. This goes beyond DeFi experiments and moves into the space of real financial products on blockchain. The technical picture confirms the interest. BNB added around 19% over the month, with rising trading volumes and TVL in the ecosystem. Analysts believe that if support holds, the price could test $1,100, $1,200, and even $1,300. Still, risks remain. First, the $1,000 psychological level could trigger profit-taking. The support zone of $900 to $950 needs to hold. Second, the Binance factor. Regulatory pressure hasn't gone away, and any new investigations could slow the move. So right now, we have a classic case. Strong fundamentals and institutional interest are pushing BNB higher, but the market remains volatile. Even so, this looks very promising. There are growing expectations that altcoins in the Binance Smart Chain ecosystem could be next to rally. If you'd like to see a curated list of the most interesting BSC projects, be sure to subscribe to the channel and comment if you want a part 2. I'll cover them in much more detail. And since we've already started talking about top altcoins, the next star on the list is Solana. There's really a lot happening here. First, the price. SOL has finally climbed to the $250 zone and is now trading just below that level. This is a key technical and psychological resistance point. A breakout here could open the way toward the next targets at $270 to $300. The market is watching closely because this is where the big question will be decided: a new wave of growth or a longer consolidation. Second, institutions. CME Group announced that starting October 13th, it will launch options on SOL alongside XRP. This is a huge signal because CME is one of the biggest players in the derivatives world. Now funds and traders will have a proper hedging tool, and that always brings more liquidity. Another important step, Soulmate. This is a digital treasury built on Solana, supported by ARK Invest and the Solana Foundation. With $300 million in capital and staking infrastructure being built in the UAE, this story goes far beyond trading. It's about real-world application. Solana is stepping onto the global stage, and projects like this show there's demand not only from speculators. Add to that Calchico Hub, an initiative where Solana, together with Base, is launching prediction markets and supporting new financial products. This expands the ecosystem and brings in new developers. All in all, we're seeing several signals at once. Solana is strengthening its position as a technology, gaining traction with funds, and building a foundation for future growth. And if we add the ETF factor, which is being actively discussed in the market, the potential here could be very, very serious. And that's it for now. Remember, these are just my personal thoughts on the market, not financial advice. Always do your own research before investing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and stay tuned for the next coin reviews. See you soon.